I'm Andy Mioch and you are watching Context. A document was signed in Astana at the second China-Central Asia Cooperation and Investment Forum, aiming to expand Kazakhstan's Aktau port for Middle Corridor growth. Just a couple of days ago at the Globsec Forum in Prague, Azerbaijan presented its own vision for the corridor connecting China to Europe, speaking of its geopolitical importance and potential to boost regional integration. Azerbaijan's representative said that the conflict with Armenia has been resolved and that the previous status quo in the region was replaced by a new one based on international law, adding that the key components of the East-West corridor are security and stability. He said Baku expects Yerevan to make progress in the Zangezur corridor and that Armenia needs to demonstrate economic viability of routes crossing its territory, as Azerbaijan has already built its own connectivity. Meanwhile, the Iranian-Israeli conflict entered its fourth day, bringing in uncertainty in all aspects of life, including trade, and the Northwest Corridor, a route connecting Russia and India through the South Caucasus and Iran. On the corridors and political prerequisites for their growth, we're talking with George Mchedlishvili, Associate Professor at the European University in Tbilisi, and Vasa Laszlo of the Hungarian Institute for Foreign Affairs, coming to us from Budapest. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's start with the Middle Corridor. The Trans-Caspian International Trade Route, as it's known officially, is growing by the day, expanding its capacity, adding new ports. Other countries are interested in developing it further, and so on. George, how much of a factor would you say regional politics can prove to be for its growth?
Well, indeed, as you mentioned, we see the significant growth in importance of the Middle Corridor. It grew particularly after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. It grew about 90% and 70% in the 2020-2024 respectively. It still continues to grow. I think it's a major factor for regional stability and for regional cooperation. So I think this is a very strong incentive for the three countries of the South Caucasus to leave the conflicts behind. Obviously, you understand which conflict I mean, and start to chart a new future, all the more since we see significant uncertainty. Well, Middle East is in flame in this. We have another pretty much a full-scale war, even though the countries which don't border each other, they bomb each other's citizens and infrastructure. We see, and of course in the north, we still the Russia-Ukraine war is ongoing. So therefore, the South Caucasus comes as a natural route for this, for the increased trade. And of course, there is another stake, another incentive for the countries like to remain stability, to be peaceful, and avoid any conflagration, and obviously avoid by all means the spillover effects which could be possible.
Vasa, what are your thoughts on the necessity of security and stability in the region for the growth of the Middle Corridor?
Indeed, as my dear colleague mentioned, the Middle Corridor gained importance, especially due to the Ukrainian-Russian war. However, it was always planned as an alternative route to the Northern Corridor. And what we can see now that surrounded by the conflicts around the Middle Corridor regarding the safety is not just for the land routes, but already for the air routes. If you saw the yesterday's and nowadays map of the air flights, actually, the whole Asia-Europe connections are flying via Central Asia and the Caucasus, as this 200 kilometer wide strip is the only safe airspace for the flights. But back to your main question, yes, the region is stable. When it comes to Caucasus, we can see stable countries with stable political leadership. And also, when it comes to the two largest economies of Central Asia, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we can see absolutely stability when it comes to political systems and to the economies. And it is really important because we are talking about investments for decades. So if somebody invests in logistical hubs in different infrastructures, then a stability is needed. It's not a surprise that in Afghanistan the projects are not going on quite well because the Taliban is not accepted yet. Why I mention Afghanistan? Because the Middle Corridor has a very important north-south connection as well. So with improving the Middle Corridor, we can improve the north-south connections as well, which is very much needed not only for Russia or for India, but Central Asia and the Caucasus itself as well.
Georgian circumstances as they are, and we've touched upon this, the North Corridor being rendered inefficient due to sanctions imposed on Russia for its invasion on Ukraine, and the Iranian-Israeli conflict, of course. How important is it to have the Middle Corridor stable and growing? And the second part, do you believe that the Iranian-Israeli conflict might have any effect on the resolving of the Zangezur corridor issue?
Well, I guess primarily, let me start from answering this second question. Well, this Zangezur corridor, well, I guess this is mostly about the political will of Armenia, Azerbaijan, primarily. Yes, Iran was a factor, but still it is secondary comparing to the bilateral issues between the countries, and of course it requires significant willpower on the part of the international partners. Well, middle corridors in the first place, apart from the huge potential and it promises to the countries of the South Caucasus, it is very significant for European Union in the first place as to reduce its huge dependency on Russian energy, the country which has been always willing to weaponize it. And besides, so they could have a positive role in this regard. I think there is a room for growth, let me put it mildly, on the part of the certain Western countries to have a fair position in this particular regard and have these issues resolved as well. But returning to this middle corridor again, so the stakes are very high and the interests of too many actors align here. So therefore, I really don't see any factor which will prevent it, because countries like, European Union, major European countries like United States, they do want to see this region stable, prosperous and predictable, most importantly. And again, their colleague mentioned the 200-mile strip, which is now safe. We do not know how long these conflicts will start. Well, of course, we always hope for a peace to be established, a fair peace, but we cannot predict. It seems that both sides, Iran and Israel, are hell-bent on resolving the conflict in their favor. We might see some disparity in the potential, but on the other hand, so today the weaker side, Iran, it still has 85 million population. It might get support from some other side. So therefore, we see that today our region remains an island of stability, and we should spare no effort to keep this way.
When it comes to the European Union, Vasa, what do you make of European countries, Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria, and so on, looking to jointly develop infrastructure to further boost the Middle Corridor?
Yes, Hungary was among the first who recognized the importance of our eastern neighborhood, the Southern Caucasus and Central Asia, and we started our Opening to the East program already 10 years ago, and we're continuing it. Now we can see that after a very active Hungarian diplomatic presence in the region, Slovakia, Poland, and even Italy started to be more interested in having good political relations with the Caucasus, Southern Caucasus countries and Central Asia. A very important and, let's say, flagship project, which is a very good sign of the cooperation of Southern Caucasus, Georgia and Azerbaijan, and Romania and Hungary, is the deep water cable system, which is in progress, which will deliver green power from Azerbaijan via Georgia to Central Europe. And I always say that it is much more than just exporting power, because it is also about the modernization and about the diversification of the Azerbaijani economy and partially even the Georgian economy, because the added value is much higher if you are exporting green power. Moreover, it is contributing to the climate goals of whole Europe, not only Hungary and Romania, but the whole European Union. But basically, we also can see that the whole European Union started to be interested in financing projects alongside the middle corridor, especially in Central Asia. Already 1 year ago, it was announced this 10 billion budget for the infrastructure development. But still, the use is not started, the utilization is not started of these sources, but at least they have some willingness to do it in a European Union bureaucratic way, but at least they made the decision that they are interested in economic terms. So I am quite optimistic when it comes to the joint projects. And not only on state level, but also our entrepreneurs are more and more interested in the region, especially in Azerbaijan, and not only just in the exploitation of the mineral resources, but also in the industry and service sector.
George, following up on that previous question, how much would you say that trade and doing business can bring to the peace efforts in the region of South Caucasus?
Well, so trade and mutual dependence has always been an important factor in preventing the conflict and being also an incentive to bring it to an end. So I believe this is a factor. Obviously, all three countries are interested in their economic growth, and we see that that as certain actors like Russia are today bogged down in the conflict in Ukraine, there is a window of opportunity. Unfortunately, as a citizen of Georgia, I can attest to the willingness of Russia to weaken Georgia's true independence by sometimes military aggression or some other means. So, and today we see that the window of opportunity might not last for very long. So therefore, I believe that the three countries and our partners should seize upon this opportunity.
Vasa, I would like to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The trade and doing business amongst the countries, amongst the region, how much can that bring to the security and stability?
Yes, the trade is essential among the countries. When it comes to the middle corridor, we always talk about how China tries to export its goods via this new corridor to Europe. But I think similarly important, or for your countries in the region, is probably more important, not just to gain let's say the profit from this trade and the fees, but how to utilize this opportunity to provide a higher value-added activity. I mean, how to stock these goods in the countries of Central Asia and Southern Caucasus, how to process them, how to add any value which can contribute to the economic development of the countries along the middle corridor. And also, these countries will be much better connected to each other if the ongoing digitalization and standardization processes will be completed. I mean, the tariff system and the customs protocols and others, because right now it is extremely difficult just to export from one country to another. With this external pressure, the benefits will be provided for Central Asia and Southern Caucasus, because the trade flows will go much easier. And this will stimulate the economies, the national economies of Central Asia and Southern Caucasus, and will have a large importance for the development and diversification of these economies.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us and providing us with your insights and opinions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That's all we had for you in this edition of Context. But do stay tuned to A News.